My name is Brian O'Riordan, General Manager of Lely Center Mitchelstown, and welcome to our virtual open day. Today we're down in East Cork, outside the village of Cloyne, on the farm of Sean and John Casey. Sean and John Casey are farming here in partnership, and they started with 2 Lely Astronaut A4s in 2014. This year they are after upgrading to 3 Lely A5 Astronauts. So today we will be looking at the journey of robotic milking in this farm and how their focus has switched from initially solving a labour problem to getting the most out of the genetic potential of their cows.
Hey John, thank you very much for today, and if you want to give me a brief breakdown on the history of the farm. So how long have you been in the dairy industry?
This farm is in our family since 1951. My grandparents bought it and are milking cows ever since. And my father took over the farm and cow number steadily grew, and I stayed at home full time in 2007. At that stage we were milking 100 cows, rearing all the calves to beef and with a little bit of tillage. We're farming a total of 265 acres. I suppose in 2012 my father looked at robots, and we kind of decided maybe this is something we need to look at further. So we did a few farm walks and we travelled to Holland, and in 2013 we purchased 2 A4s and we started building, and we started the robots in January 14, and that was the start of our robot journey. It definitely wasn't an easy transition. 3 weeks after startup we had a major breakdown in TB. We were locked up with TB for a full year, and we lost 36 reactors the first day. We had to kill 15 cows that were moving quite well on the system due to TB, and as a result there was a few cows that we probably should have got rid of that we kind of couldn't, because we didn't know what the next test was going to bring. So it was a tricky enough startup, but I remember getting to June 2014, we were able to stand back and, I suppose, breathe a bit, and we kind of felt at that stage the system would work.
Because that's a desperate hit initially, and it's such a...
Well, it was so early on in the system, like if we had got the first 3 months, if we'd got to March or April, we would have had a bit of culling done and we would have had a bit more flexibility, but the entire herd was fully locked down. And we were overstocked with a lot of young stock that we needed to sell, because we generally sell the beef cattle as stores.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do it, so it limited our grazing options at the time.
Would have put an awful lot of pressure on the whole system.
But we got through it, and I suppose every year on year since then, we increased the amount of milk sold. Quotas went in 2015, so that was a major help. And we went up to about 120, 125 cows each year. We did a little bit of autumn calving, but we kind of gave that up. So we're solely based spring calving now at this stage. And we worked away until 2020, and we kind of looked at our options again. So
you've recently, again, slightly changed the system. Do you want to go over what methodology was behind that?
I suppose from 2014 to 2020 our cow number stayed the same, but the milk sold per cow increased, and we got to a situation in 2019 the robots were under a lot of pressure, but we kind of got away with it. In 2020 the system was under a little bit too much pressure at peak milk, and we kind of felt
it was detrimental to the system.
Yeah, it didn't help. Like we definitely had animals that underperformed slightly, because like we were under 10% free time there for a couple of months, and the whole system was under pressure. So we kind of sat down and looked at our options, and we started speaking to Lily again, and we started off saying, would we put in 1 A5, and we trashed out a few different options, and the option we went with was they traded in the 2 A4s, and We now have 3 A5s.
And how have you found the transition from 2 A4s to 3 A5s? Was it more to learn? Was it?
No, to be honest, it changed over. Like on the day that we stopped at the 2 A4s and started one of the A5s, it was a very, like we did it when a lot of the cows were dried off. It was a simple enough process. As regards this spring, when the 3 A5s were up and running there at the start of calving, it was much easier. It was like a different herd of cows. The training of the heifers was the big thing. Before, like we found that the training of the heifers, like initially to get them used to the robot took a bit of time, but to get them to move within the main herd took a lot of time. This year it didn't. In most cases, once the heifers had settled in the box, we left them join the main herd, and they might have to be collected once or twice, and that was it. They moved with a much higher level of confidence. Today we have just over 150 on the robot. They're doing 33 litres now this morning, and we're not collecting any animals, and we're between 25 and 30% free time all of the time. So it's giving us a lot more flexibility, and we have a lot more options going forward.
So here I am with Sean Casey. Sean, thank you so much for having us here today. It's one of my favourite farms to visit. You've robots here since 2014 and calling here a long time. You told me you saw it first in an open there. How did you come to have robots here, Sean?
Well, I just went to this open day and they looked like the right thing to do. Looking into the future, help was going to be scarce. And I was getting old and tired of too much running around. And I felt that by putting in robots, it would take a lot of work out of it, which we did. We made a lot of mistakes along the way, but we got there, like.
And what's been the biggest improvement you've seen in the farm or in the herd since you started back in 14?
We have more time to put into managing the farm, managing grass and managing livestock. And because we have time to look around us now, we never had time to do anything like that.
Okay, so you're a spring-based system, which means you have high emphasis on grass intake.
Yeah.
What kind of grazing system are you running on the farm at the moment, and what are the reasons behind that system?
I suppose just at the moment, our farm will be slightly different to most, that we're rearing pretty much all the calves through to store cattle, so we've a lot of different bunches of animals. But in terms of the cows, we've an ABC grazing system. So like from a day-to-day point of view, change 2 fences in the morning and change 1 fence in the evening time. So just at the moment, the cows are on grazed grass only and nuts in the parlour.
Because an ABC system offers the cows fresh grass every 8 hours, and the selection is done on a grazeway.
Yeah.
How did you find training to the grazeway and the introduction of that ABC circular system initially?
Again, that took a good bit of time, but I suppose we made a good few mistakes ourselves. We probably spent far too long collecting the cows and hunting cows, and it wasn't really until we gave that up that it kind of started working. You kind of have to almost stand back from the cows and see what they do, and bit by bit then certain cows will learn the system, they'll move themselves and they'll bring more cows with them, but that did take a bit of time.
How long would you say? 6 months, a year? When would you say you were confident that your grazing infrastructure was working well?
I suppose to get it to a standard that was working, that was functional, I'd suppose it probably took about 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
To get it functional. But then when we got into 2015, the herd performed a lot better because you had a herd of cows that had a fair idea what was going on.
Yeah.
They got on with it, so you were just training the heifers. And like when we got free of TB, we were able to, like, you're going to have 2 or 3 troublemakers in the herd, but that's enough to cause problems.
Yeah.
So like if you can get rid of those 2 or 3 cows every year, it kind of makes the system flow a lot better. But like I would say when we were full-time grazing in 2014, once we got to 6 or 8 weeks over us, the system, it started working, it started functioning. But when we got into the second year, the cows really started moving well then.
My name is Barry Purcell and I'm a ruminant nutritionist with Southern Milling with over 20 years experience. At Southern Milling we pride ourselves in having a good, close working relationship with our farmer customers to help them achieve their goals and ambitions for their farm. I've been working with Sean and John Casey since 2013, a year before the first robot was introduced to the farm. During this time we've seen a great increase in herd performance, rising milk yield from 5,800 litres to 7,000 litres without compromising on milk solid percentages or herd fertility. I find the feed system on the Lely robotic milker excellent. It allows the farmer to feed bespoke levels of feed to individual cows. On most conventional farms using conventional parlours, farmers feed cows to the average milk production. This means that the cows who are under the average yield get fed too much and the cows that are over it don't get fed enough. On a regular basis, myself and John and Sean sit down and go through the feed tables. There are 4 key points to take into consideration when adjusting the tables. They are milk yield, parity, stage of lactation and the quality of the grass being grazed. Taking these 4 points into consideration, we adjust the tables accordingly. So currently the cows are on grazed grass and concentrates fed through the robot. The concentrate being fed at the minute is Southern Milling's Super Grace High Fertility Dairy Nut. This nut contains maize meal, yeast, protected minerals and protected fat, all known to boost reproductive performance. This is borne out by the Casey's fertility results, who have a 80% 6-week calving rate on a yearly basis. In winter and early spring, the cows are fed indoors through a diet wagon on a mix of beet, soya and grass silage to complement the concentrates being fed through the robot. The level of beet, soya and grass silage being fed in the mix is determined using the Southern Milling feed formulation package, which also takes into consideration grass silage analysis results.
So shed-wise, what infrastructural changes were needed to be made? So we'll start from the beginning. What was here to start with, and then what modifications did you make to accommodate the original 2A4 Astronauts?
I suppose we had all the cubicles were already there. There was about 200 cubicles on the farm. From the outset, we wanted the thing to be designed for 3 robots. Like if it was just a 2 robot layout, it would have been simpler. But the fact that we wanted 3 made the shed considerably bigger. And then behind robot 3 here, we have a fairly big straw area. That's something I wanted. So that resulted in the shed being quite big. It's working quite well. Like I would say, having the big separation area saves a lot of labour in the springtime. So you don't have to go out and fetch your heifers, or if you want the fresh cows, you don't have to go into the main herd to look for them. So they're there waiting for you every morning and every evening. Or if you have a cranky heifer that's taking a couple of days to settle, you can leave her beside the robot. So that does help.
And then in the winter, obviously, your cubicles are opened up to allow access and then stops off.
To be fair, like when grazing finishes up, I know there'll be a lot of cows dried off, but the few that are milking, you never ever have to collect them. The cubicles are right beside the robot and they'll keep travelling to it.
And calving-wise, do you have a designated calving area, or is it all done in the straw bed?
Yeah, no, we have a separate calving house there at the other side of the cubicle house. So the cows calve down, and during the busiest part of the spring, then once a day we'll just bring down the fresh ones and milk them, and they'll stay in the straw area. So the separation area and the calving area are separated completely.
Okay, so in the robot area here, we got 3 robots. So robot number 1 here on the right hand side, robot number 2 in the middle, robot number 3 down on the left hand side. We got 2 different type of configurations here on the robots. We got a nose to tail configuration with robot number 1 or 2, and robot number 3 is at an L. The reason we do this is to achieve separation. What separation is, if you have a cow for any reason needs attention, if she needs to be AI'd or if she needs to be lameness or if she's got mastitis, you need to be able to isolate that cow, treat her, or give her the attention she needs. So this robot number 1 is obviously a training robot. We've got a gate here on the side. That gate opens up here to make a nice funnel area in here for gentle handling of cows. We've got a footbath area here, and we've got a cow just after going into robot number 2 here. If we want to separate a cow out of robot number 1, she will come here into this holding area here. She'll be drafted out there with a separation gate. She will go into the holding area there, and she will wait there until robot number 2 is free. Then she will walk through robot number 2 into the separation area. Robot number 3 is at an L, so cows will just walk out and go left into the separation area. In the separation area, they've got a treatment box. They've also got a crush with a pit for tubing cows if they're doing dry off, etc. It's a straw bedded area, so the cows, when they calve down, they tend to spend 3 days inside this straw bedded area, and it's great if you have a cow with milk fever, something that she's a place to lie out, and she's steady on her feet.
So the farm management system online is Time for Cows, which is T4C. How do you as a farmer and end user find it to access information?
It's a very straightforward system to use. Like, you have a colossal amount of information, but when we started off in 2014, we just ignored a lot of it, and you pick it up bit by bit in, and you utilise the parts that you're looking for and that you want. But I suppose on a daily basis, the biggest thing would be the conductivity and the monitoring of the yield every day. Like, if you've a cow doing 35 or 40 litres, and if there's anything at all wrong with her, she'll drop 10 litres, so you know immediately there's something wrong. And we also have the cell count testing every third milking, so that's quite good. So
She tests every third milking unless she's above a certain threshold.
Yeah.
And then it will test her every milking until she comes back below that threshold.
Yeah.
And you find that a good management tool to help identify cows?
Definitely. Like, yeah, if there's any problem, a cow will drop in milk straight away. It's the first thing she'll do. So you're picking up cows quite quick, and we're not getting these very, very sick cows anymore. Like, you're kind of getting in fairly early, and you have a better chance to cure it before it becomes a huge issue.
And so the link between the Astronauts and T4C, or Time for Cows, is the collar around their neck. So do you want to talk me through your collar system?
Well, we are operating ID-only collars. When we started in 2014, we went for the full heat detection, which was the old SCR collars. And I suppose at that time, I found that I couldn't trust it 100% to pick up all the cows in heat. So I was spending a lot of time watching cows. I would say the new generation of heat detection collars and rumination collars are that much better, but we decided not to go for them this time. We sat down when we were looking at our options at the end of, or in the middle of 2020. We decided we'd just go for 3A5s and go ID only collars. So to pick up the cows for heat detection, we're just using tail paint and observation, and we're only pretty much doing about 5 weeks of AI. So we find that is working good enough for us. And to be honest, I suppose the biggest thing we found since we started on the robots is, like, if you've a high yielding cow or a low yielding cow, if that cow is being fed properly and is comfortable in the system, she'll behave as she's supposed to behave. So it's easier to get cows back in calf. Like, we'd have some cows up close to 9,000 litres, and they're going back in calf quite easily because they're being managed properly. They're being fed properly, and they're being milked up to 3 times a day. So those cows aren't under pressure, so they're easy enough to get back in calf.
It's a testament to your management style and the attention to detail that you have. What would you say your health status is in comparison to when you started in 2014? Have you seen a significant difference, or has it remained the same down to your management style?
if you're to look at the herd health as a whole, is definitely after improving. We have a lot of information, so I suppose we're ruthless enough with culling. You're making very good decisions as what cows you should breed off of, what cows you should keep and what cows should go. Our empty rate would have always been under 10%, and every year since the robot started, we would have kept it at under 10%. And as regards herd health, we're not getting the real critical sick cows anymore. Like, you're getting in quite early to treat a sick cow, and you're kind of getting at her before she gets really sick. You're picking up the symptoms a lot faster.
What differences have come into your work-life balance since you've gone automation?
I suppose you can divide the year into two. Like, the reality of it is, with or without robots, when you're calving cows in the springtime, you're still pretty much full tilt. You know, we're calving, there's 100 cows we'll calve there during 4 or 5 weeks, all calve. We're rearing all the calves, and it's just myself and my father, so there's still quite a bit going on. But the robots at that time of the year still help, because, you know, the cows are still being milked. Once you kind of get through that rough period and cows start going out to grass, it does free up time. When we start airing, then I'm doing the airing myself, so there's a good bit of time goes into that. But I suppose the biggest flexibility is you can finish earlier in the evening. You know, if you have something on, you can go away. You're not rushing home at 4 or 5 o'clock to do the evening milking. When we do 6 weeks of AI, when that finishes up, I suppose that's where the huge benefit comes in. Like, as I said previously, we change 2 fences in the morning time, so that sets up the grazing for the most of the day. But our evening block fence, like, you can change that at any time from pretty much 2 o'clock in the day to last thing before it gets dark. So, like, you can go in early and come back later and change the fence and wash the robots and have a quick look, or you can do it early and go away early. So you're not tied to certain times, and I suppose that is the big advantage. But I suppose it's important to say that we're still full-time farmers, so we're still here a lot.
It's a different allocation of time as opposed to more time, if that makes sense. It's just freedom to choose when you do the jobs, rather than being...
Like, it's not a case that we can do an hour's work in the morning and go away every single day.
No.
You know, like, there's still topping to be done, fertiliser to be spread, stock to be seen after.
Farming.
You know, it's still a working farm and we're still full-time farmers, but I would definitely feel we have more control of the operation.